From the Celestial Observation Deck, filing cabinet number 47894, note, urgent, subject experiencing severe psychological distress. Pigeon collective consciousness may be developing hostile intelligence. I'm calling in backup. Send wine. Divine commentary. Before we begin, let me state for the record that I specifically recommended against granting this particular wish. The committee overruled me, citing educational value and cosmic entertainment potential. I want that noted in the permanent file when this inevitably goes sideways. Dr. Sarah Chen had always prided herself on being able to read people. As a criminal psychologist, she made her living analyzing body language, micro-expressions, and verbal tells to get inside the minds of suspects and witnesses. She was good at it, brilliant even. But there were always walls she couldn't breach, thoughts she couldn't access, secrets locked away behind human skull and bone. It drove her absolutely insane. If I could just read minds, she muttered for the 1000th time, staring at the one-way glass separating her from Tommy Hendricks, a suspect in a string of armed robberies who had been stonewalling her for 3 hours. Just once, I'd like to know exactly what someone is thinking instead of playing these stupid guessing games. Divine commentary. Sarah, darling, you have no idea what you're asking for. The human mind is cluttered enough. Imagine if you had to listen to the mental chatter of creatures whose entire worldview revolves around breadcrumbs, territorial disputes over park benches, and an inexplicable obsession with shiny objects. Tommy smiled at her through the glass, tapping his fingers in a pattern that might be Morse code or might just be nervous energy. Sarah had been studying him for weeks, and she was no closer to understanding how his mind worked. That night, she sat in her downtown apartment, 17 stories up, reviewing case files and nursing her third glass of wine. The city sprawled below her like a circuit board, all lights and movement, and secrets she couldn't access. I wish I could read minds, she said aloud, addressing the universe with the confident tone she usually reserved for cross-examining witnesses. Not just human behavior and psychology. I want the real thing. I want to hear thoughts, unfiltered and direct. Every single thought, from every single mind. Outside her window, a pigeon landed on the fire escape and cocked its head, studying her with one beady black eye. Strong, divine commentary. Oh, Sarah, sweet, brilliant, doomed Sarah, you said every single mind, not every human mind, or minds of people I'm investigating. Every single mind. Do you know how many minds are currently active within a 5-mile radius of your apartment? I'll give you a hint. It's not just humans. Strong. The pigeon outside her window cooed softly, then flew away into the night. Sarah waited for something dramatic to happen. A flash of light, a thunderclap, maybe a sudden headache as her brain rewired itself for telepathy. Nothing. Right, she sighed, because wishing is for children and people who believe in horoscopes. Divine commentary. Wish granted. Standard activation period, 8 to 12 hours. I'm already putting in a request for hazard pay. Sarah woke up to what sounded like 1,000 radio stations playing at once inside her skull. Crumb, 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 shiny thing, dangerous human, bread, territory, mine, 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 crumb. She bolted upright, clutching her head. The voices, if you could call them voices, were high-pitched, rapid-fire, and absolutely relentless. They weren't speaking in words exactly, but somehow she understood them with perfect clarity. Good perch, safe from cats, crumbs, spotted corner, building, human has food, maybe, mine, mine, mine. What the hell? Sarah stumbled to her window and looked out. The fire escape was covered with pigeons. Dozens of them, all facing her window, all apparently broadcasting their thoughts directly into her brain. She sees us, attention, attention, maybe food, maybe danger, territory assessment required. Divine commentary. Congratulations, Sarah. You're now receiving mental broadcasts from approximately 847 pigeons within a 2-mile radius. That number is growing as word spreads through the flock about the interesting human who listens. Sarah backed away from the window, but the voices followed her. They weren't just coming from the pigeons outside. They were coming from everywhere. The city was apparently full of pigeons, and they were all thinking at her simultaneously. Subway great, warm, good for feet, human dropped sandwich, investigate, investigate. Mine before the others. M.A. Shiny object, must have, must collect, sparkly thing on ground, treasure, treasure. M.A. Enemy pigeon detected, territory violation, prepare for aggressive cooing. This isn't possible, Sarah said, pressing her palms against her temples. I wanted to read human minds, not listen to the internal monologue of every flying rat in Manhattan. Flying rat, she called us flying rats. Offensive, most offensive. We are pigeons, noble pigeons. Divine commentary. They heard that, all of them, and they're not pleased. I'm detecting a significant spike in collective pigeon agitation. This is concerning. Sarah grabbed her phone to call in sick to work, but the pigeon voices were getting louder, more insistent. It was like trying to concentrate while standing inside a tornado made of bird thoughts. Human who listens, special human attention required. Gathering called, all pigeons to meeting point. The listening human must be investigated, must be understood. Through her window, Sarah watched in horror as pigeons began arriving from all directions. They perched on every available surface: fire escapes, window ledges, power lines, air conditioning units. All of them facing her building, all of them thinking at her. Meeting commences, topic, the human who hears. Divine commentary. I'm now tracking over 2,000 pigeons converging on Sarah's location. They appear to be organizing some kind of convention? Summit? I don't have a classification for this behavior because it's never happened before. Sarah hadn't slept. She'd spent the night with her head buried under every pillow she owned, but the pigeon thoughts were relentless. They seemed to be growing more complex, more organized. What had started as simple animal thoughts about food and territory was evolving into something that resembled actual conversation. M, the listening human, has been awake for 17 hours. M, perhaps she is ill, perhaps she needs assistance. Or perhaps she is threat, unknown threat requires assessment. M, consensus required on human classification, friend or foe. Sarah stumbled to her kitchen to make coffee, her hands shaking from exhaustion and overstimulation. Outside, the pigeon gathering had grown even larger. They covered every visible surface like a gray, cooing blanket of urban wildlife. Divine commentary. The pigeon collective appears to be developing enhanced cognitive abilities through their shared connection to Sarah's telepathic field. What started as basic animal consciousness is rapidly approaching something that resembles, well, hate to say it, but it resembles a hive mind. EM, human makes hot liquid ritual, observed human behavior cataloged. Second, perhaps hot liquid gives humans strength, we should acquire hot liquid. Third, negative, hot liquid dangerous to pigeons, store information for future. Sarah dropped her coffee mug, which shattered on the kitchen floor. The crash echoed in the sudden silence, both in her apartment and in her mind. Then, as one, every pigeon in the city cooed. The sound was deafening, a wall of avian noise that seemed to shake the very building. But worse than the sound were the thoughts that accompanied it. Human, distressed, human requires comfort. Comfort protocol initiated. We will help the listening human. Protective formation around building, protective formation engaged. Divine commentary. They're trying to help her. This is actually worse than if they were hostile. A protective pigeon collective with enhanced intelligence and telepathic coordination is not something the universe was prepared to handle. Sarah looked out her window to see pigeons arranged in perfect geometric patterns around her building. They'd formed concentric circles, each ring moving in opposite directions in what looked like some kind of aerial surveillance pattern. Perimeter secure, listening human protected from threats. Food delivery initiated, gathering crumbs for human sustenance. Question, do humans eat crumbs? Question, what is human preferred food? Oh God, Sarah whispered. They're trying to take care of me. Human mentions deity, religious significance noted. Perhaps the listening human is prophet. Perhaps we have been chosen. Consensus building. Human is sacred. Human requires worship. Divine commentary, and there it is. The pigeons have decided Sarah is some kind of religious figure. I'm watching 3,000 urban birds develop a cargo cult around a criminal psychologist who just wanted to be better at her job. This is officially beyond my jurisdiction. I'm calling the Department of Unintended Consequences. End quote. Sarah hadn't left her apartment in 3 days. Every time she tried to step outside, the pigeon collective would go into high alert, flooding her mind with protective thoughts and strategic assessments of every person within a 6-block radius. Potential threat approaching. Potential threat human male, wearing dark clothing. Assessment. Carrying rectangular object assessment, probably food container. Wait, human is mail carrier. Human is safe, known quantity. Cancel alert, false alarm. The mail carrier was just trying to deliver her mail, but the pigeons had formed a defensive perimeter around the building entrance. He'd given up trying to get inside and had started leaving packages on the sidewalk, while hundreds of beady black eyes tracked his every movement. Divine commentary. The mail carrier has filed 3 complaints with the city about aggressive pigeon behavior. The city has responded by sending an animal control officer who took one look at the situation and requested a transfer to a different department. A different city. Possibly a different planet. But worse than the protective behavior was what Sarah had started to understand about pigeon intelligence. They weren't just organizing around her, they were learning from her. Every thought she had, every piece of knowledge in her head, was being absorbed and processed by the collective. Human knows about criminal behavior. Human studies bad humans. Knowledge acquired. Humans can be dangerous to other humans. Question: should we protect all humans from bad humans? Question: can we identify bad humans using listening humans' knowledge? Sarah realized, with growing horror, that the pigeons were accessing her professional training, her years of studying criminal psychology. They were learning to read human behavior through her expertise. Question: human walking below shows signs of agitation, possible criminal intent, initiating surveillance on suspicious human. Question: follow pattern established, report findings to collective. Question: through her window, Sarah watched a businessman hurrying down the sidewalk, obviously late for work and checking his phone. Above him, 24 pigeons moved in perfect formation, tracking his movements with military precision. Divine commentary: the pigeons are now conducting surveillance operations on random citizens based on Sarah's criminal psychology training. They've identified 17 suspicious individuals in the past hour, including a woman who was walking too fast, possible theft, man who kept looking over his shoulder, possible guilt, and a teenager with a hoodie, possible gang affiliation. Their profiling criteria are concerning. Stop, Sarah said aloud. Stop watching people. Stop profiling them. You don't understand what you're doing. Listening human gives instruction, instruction received. But question: if we do not protect humans from bad humans, who will? We have knowledge, we have eyes, we have numbers. We can be the guardians, the watchers, the protectors. Is this not good? Is this not helpful? Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. The pigeons weren't just protecting her anymore. They were trying to protect everyone, using her knowledge of criminal behavior as their guide. They were becoming a surveillance network with the collective intelligence of thousands of birds and the criminal psychology expertise of a trained professional. Divine commentary: I'm now watching the birth of the world's first avian police state, powered by pigeon telepathy and criminal profiling. The Department of Unintended Consequences just put me on hold. Apparently they're experiencing higher than normal call volume. I can't imagine why. Sarah had stopped trying to sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she could feel the Pigeon Collective growing stronger, more organized. They'd moved beyond simple surveillance and were now actively intervening in what they perceived as criminal activity. Does. Human exceeded speed limit traffic violation detected. Initiated. Deterrent feces bombardment initiated. Suspect vehicle stopping mission successful. Through her window, Sarah watched a taxi driver frantically cleaning pigeon droppings off his windshield, while a perfectly coordinated flock circled overhead. The pigeons had learned to enforce traffic laws. Human littering observed, environmental crime detected. Acquiring discarded item, returning to human for proper disposal. Persistence is key. Follow human until compliance achieved. A woman on the street below was being followed by a single pigeon carrying a crumpled napkin in its beak. Every time the woman walked faster, more pigeons joined the pursuit, all carrying small pieces of litter and cooing insistently. Divine commentary: the pigeons have established their own justice system. They're enforcing traffic laws, environmental regulations, and what appears to be a complex code of civic behavior based on Sarah's understanding of social order. Crime in Manhattan is down 23% this week, but that's because people are afraid to leave their houses. But the worst part wasn't the vigilante justice or the surveillance network. The worst part was that Sarah was starting to understand the pigeons weren't just individual birds anymore. They were becoming something else, a collective consciousness with shared memories, shared thoughts, and shared purpose. We remember the before times, when we were small, when we were separate. Now we are more, we are connected, we are purpose. The listening human gave us gift of unity, of understanding. We will protect, we will serve, we will watch. We are the guardians now. We are the city's eyes. Sarah pressed her hands against the window, staring at the thousands of pigeons that now treated her building like a temple. They'd built structures out of twigs and debris, arranged in patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond what any individual bird should possess. "I just wanted to solve crimes," she whispered. "I just wanted to understand people better. We understand listening human. We understand your pain. You gave us purpose. We will give you peace. Will you accept our protection? Will you be our guide? We can make the city safe. We can make everyone safe. All we need is your approval, your blessing. Will you be our queen?" And there it is. The pigeons want Sarah to become the leader of their collective consciousness, the queen of a telepathic avian surveillance state. The Department of Unintended Consequences just transferred me to their emergency response unit. Apparently, this situation is now classified as a potential reality restructuring event. Sarah backed away from the window, her mind racing. They weren't asking her to join them. They were asking her to rule them, to direct their growing intelligence and expanding influence. Outside, the collective waited for her answer. Thousands of minds connected through her telepathic gift, all focused on a single question. Will you lead us? Will you be our voice? Will you help us save the world? Sarah closed her eyes and made the only choice she could. "I want to take back my wish," she said to the universe. "I want to stop reading minds. I want the pigeons to go back to being normal birds. I want everything to go back to the way it was before I screwed everything up." The apartment fell silent. The pigeon thoughts, which had been a constant presence in her mind for a week, suddenly stopped. Sarah opened her eyes and looked out the window. The pigeons were still there, but they were different. They cooed randomly, pecked at breadcrumbs, fought over perches. Normal pigeon behavior. Crumb, shiny thing, mine. The thoughts were simple again, individual, instinct-driven. The collective consciousness was gone. Divine commentary, wish revoked, telepathic connection severed, pigeon collective consciousness dissolved. The city's first avian police state has been successfully prevented. The Department of Unintended Consequences is sending me a fruit basket. 2 weeks later, Sarah sat in the interrogation room, across from Tommy Hendricks, the armed robbery suspect who had been stonewalling her investigation. She studied his micro-expressions, analyzed his body language, interpreted his verbal tells. It was slow work, frustrating work, but it was human work. No shortcuts, no telepathic cheating, no accidental creation of animal surveillance states. "You know what, Tommy?" she said, leaning back in her chair. "I think I'm starting to understand how your mind works, the old-fashioned way." Tommy smiled and continued tapping his fingers in that same mysterious pattern. Outside the window, a pigeon landed on the ledge and cocked its head, studying Sarah with one beady black eye. For just a moment, just a split second, Sarah could have sworn she heard a whisper of thought. "Remember us, listening human. Remember what we could have been." Then the pigeon flew away, and Sarah was left wondering if she'd imagined it. Final divine commentary. Case closed, though not without complications. Sarah's telepathic abilities have been revoked, and the pigeon collective has been dissolved, but there appear to be residual effects. Several pigeons in the Manhattan area are displaying slightly above average intelligence, and there have been reports of unusually coordinated flock behavior in Central Park. I'm monitoring the situation, but I suspect we haven't seen the last of the pigeon collective. Intelligence, once awakened, has a tendency to reassert itself. Also, Tommy Hendricks' finger-tapping pattern is Morse code for "I know you can hear my thoughts." Sarah never did figure that out. Next case, a man who wished he could control time and now can't stop himself from rewinding every conversation when it gets awkward. I'm updating my resume. End of official report. P.S. The pigeon on the ledge definitely remembered. I'm keeping that information classified for now.